All rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome.
Sorry, Bill.
Okay, Nance?
Yeah, I'm good.
Chairs running away from you?
It was.
Okay, we caught it. Good. So we just wanted, we had last month Brenda Simmons retired with the village after 10 and a half, almost 11 years working with us, and the village hired Julie Fitzgerald. So you're going to see Julie's smiling face here, and she's working as my assistant and assistant to the board, and also we stole it from the town. Yes, we did. And then she's going to be helping out the Southampton Arts Center. So it's
Maybe you'll get to throw one back.
there you go. So, but the village supervisors actually took. We always do the employee of the month. So this month we're recognizing Brenda Simmons for her as the employee of the month, and she spent almost 11 years with us, and she was a great representative of this board and Village Hall, and had so many compliments and some nice emails from people after the press article that came out and supported Brenda, and so she will be missed, and we wish her much success in her retirement, but she is coming back to help us here. So it's kind of
If she ever leaves the islands.
she ever leaves the islands. Yeah, so she went down to the islands for the. And after being in Aruba last week, I completely understand that if I didn't have a board meeting tonight, I'd still be there. So, tonight we get to recognize the oath of office here with the 2016 Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Officers.
Rick, you want to come up first? Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Richard Fowler,
I, Richard Fowler,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Chief of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
as Chief of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Signature there. Okay, Dan, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Daniel Berry,
I, Daniel Barry,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of First Assistant Chief
the duties of First Assistant Chief
of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Chris, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Christopher Epley,
I, Christopher Epley,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and I will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Second Assistant Chief
the duties of the Second Assistant Chief
of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
of the duties of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Everybody else is doing it right, so why not me?
There you go. All right, Don. I, Don Mahoney,
I, Don Mahoney,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Treasurer
the duties of Treasurer
of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Steve.
How you doing, Ms. Boone?
I, Guillaume Le Guen,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I faithfully discharge
the duties of Secretary
the duty of Secretary
of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps
of the Southampton Village Ambulance Corps
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, I know that next month, we always do a presentation from all the different departments and to recognize the activity, but you guys have done a fantastic job. I think Chief, you're over 800 calls last year?
820.
820, so 820 calls. So basically, that's 2.5 calls a day. So I see family members that are here and, you know, they leave family dinners and birthdays and all of this stuff to respond to our community, and that doesn't even include the volume of hours that people have to do for all the trainings that are required and maintenance of the ambulance barn and the new building and the equipment and the certifications, and we've gone really from just a ALS, BLS basically department to an ALS, and being able to you know, provide narcotics and all these different trainings that have gone on. So we're really very fortunate to have such a great group of people and volunteering in this community. So thank you guys for everything that you do. And on behalf of the board, we're very proud for you guys stepping up for this community. So thanks a lot, guys. Get a quick photo here. Okay. All right. Guys, you want to come down? Sure. We'll get the rest of the board for you.
Can't get me in it, I'll survive.
Come on over there, Mike. We'll balance it out a little bit, so, okay.
What, you want me to move up?
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Dan, how you doing? Okay, all right, Gary through here. That would have been good.
That would have been good.
Have it. There you go.
I was waiting for this.
I know you were. My arm was like halfway. Let's bring the department in here, guys, so. Come on in, guys.
Oh, you're right, well, I'll stand here then.
Okay, great.
You guys over 5 steps, if you don't mind. Right. That's great. Mr. Mike up here first. Mike, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Michael Kempf,
I, Michael Camp,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
I will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully
the
discharge
duties of Chief Engineer
the duties of Chief Engineer
of the Southampton Fire
of the
Department
Southampton Fire Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Chris, raise Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Christopher Brenner,
I, Christopher Brenner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
as First Assistant Chief
the duties of First Assistant Chief
of the Southampton Fire Department
of the Southampton Fire Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Mr. Anthony,
Yes, sir.
raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Anthony Stevens,
I, Anthony Stevens,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I'll support the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I'll faithfully
the
discharge
duties of Second Assistant Chief,
the duties of Second Assistant Chief,
Engineer of the Southampton Fire Department,
Engineer of the Southampton Fire
according
Department,
to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
You want it? That's why I bring a backup with you around. All right, guys, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name, and be careful on this one. Solemnly swear. I will support the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of New York. Faithfully discharge. Duties of your position. Southampton Fire Department. According to the best of my ability. Congratulations. When you have a chance over the next 30 days, just stop in and sign off on this. Okay?
We're gonna get a team photo, guys.
It's almost out. Almost out. He's gonna stand up here in the back, so it'll be visible.
I think you should give it to John. I think you should give it to John.
Four of them are gonna be in the picture.
Small guys in the back,
I told you I got juice.
I'll be on the end.
Can't get out anyway, so you're stuck.
Hey, Bill, Mike, Nancy, can you guys come down?
Sure. Dorothy, stay
But
up.
we'd be more visible.
How are you?
How are you?
Wonderful.
Standing right here.
Yeah, I'll block you with my.
That's okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sure you were.
Only one, Chug, there's only one guy we're missing here. Yeah, I know. Okay. What, you have to put the camera? No. Can we get everybody?
Oh, yeah.
That's me. Panda. Yeah. Great. There you go.
Hey.
At least I'll slow down first.
Go fast.
Hey, Tony, wait a second, guys.
Tony,
So,
Chris, hold on, sir.
there we go. I know in February we're gonna be doing quick presentations on departments and stuff, but, quickly, why don't you give a little rundown on how many calls you guys?
Phone calls?
Yeah, how many phone calls you took?
Last year, we answered and responded to 1,186 calls.
1,186 responses. So, I mean, it's 3+ a day.
There's a record.
There's a record year. I mean, you just have to see what's happening in the last week. There were accidents on County Road 39, and, you know, those things happen in the middle of the night, on holidays, in the middle of work days, all of this stuff. And we're fortunate to have a great department responding, and to be honest with you, until I got involved with the village board, I didn't really fully appreciate the job that you guys do and the volume of hours and the amount of training required to do the job, and my hat's off to you guys. So on behalf of the village board and everybody here, I want to thank you guys for what you do. I want to thank your families for allowing them to do that. And it's not just about responding to calls, it's about trainings and meetings and everything else that goes, maintaining the equipment, good job, great group of people. We're very fortunate. Thank you guys for taking on leadership roles there. It's greatly appreciated. So thanks, guys. Thank you.
Now we can go. All right.
I
Good, how are you? I gotta retire, let the boys take over. Hey, Julie. Congratulations on your new job.
Congratulations.
Very good, everything's well. Good.
David, you got all dressed up.
I know it. I know. First time I usually. Yeah. I'm just passing through.
All right, that cleared the room. There you go. Okay.
The business.
It's nice.
Okay. So we have public comment. Do we have anybody who signed up? Oh, one person. Okay. Great. Okay. Okay, 3 minutes. Jay?
Good evening, Jay Deasing, a resident of the village at 109 Old Town Crossing. I just wanted to follow up on the Meyer-Swazi opinion on the powers of the Architectural Review Board. It was quite clear at Monday night's meeting that there's a great deal of confusion over what those powers actually are. And if you listen to some of the attorneys discussing certain applications, they are simply stating that the ARB cannot contest placement, cannot contest the scale, cannot contest virtually any of the details of the application. And my wonder is, why do we have an ARB? They certainly seem to dictate what happens with signs, but beyond that, it seems like there's a great degree of difference of opinion as to what they can actually opine on. And when you actually read the code, though, it does state in section 116-33 that the board is charged with the duty of exercising sound judgment and of rejecting plans which are not of harmonious character because of proposed style, mass, materials, line, color, detail, or placement upon the property. And I know we've talked about this, and I really think it's critical that as a village we spend a little time figuring out what they can do with the code. I know we're working on the code, but I think their power and their ability to exercise that power right now is in limbo, and I think it basically is allowing a lot of applications to just move through kind of unchecked.
Well, I mean, I'll have to go back and watch the meeting. I'm sure everybody here is going to want to go back and watch that meeting. So I'm surprised about the comments in reference to placement and some of the details on it, because that's really what they're there for, and it's clear in a code here. So I hate to respond to something I didn't see or haven't read anything about yet, but we'll definitely have a conversation around that with these guys, and they have a lot more power than what you're exercising. Well, I mean, I think there's some debates there, but I think that.
I mean, one of the things, this is an excellent brochure, and I know it's upstairs, and this mainly details the historic district, and I wonder if we shouldn't spend a little money to have somebody put a similar brochure together
There is a brochure up there.
for.
There's a brochure upstairs.
Well, this is it. I think this is a smaller version, but this is for the historic district.
Right.
Just because it seems to me that what's happening is that the building department, pretty much they're certifying if an application is complete, not whether it may conform to things like mass and placement and those sorts of things. And my sense from talking with other members of building departments in East Hampton, you know, I'm told that essentially if somebody comes into a neighborhood and is going to put a house that's out of scale and has more buildings or is not harmonious with the neighborhood, that the building department might say, you know, go take a look at the neighborhood. Because I now live in a neighborhood where I was told that these houses fit beautifully within the scale of the neighborhood. And if you drive down Old Town Crossing, you're going to see those houses are a significant increase in size from the existing houses. And furthermore, during the testimony, we were told that there were 6 other houses that were as large. I'd love to know which 6 houses, because when I look at that street, there's not a single house that's even close to those, except for at the very end of the street, which is really a Little Plains-sized house. So,
But I think, Jay, I mean, and I just want to be open and have this conversation because I think this is an important one to have. I know some of the houses that were on that street that really local people lived in at some point or another, and they're not living in it anymore. They were small, they suited the local person who's there, and that's not the customer who comes here anymore. I mean, I don't think the local person can afford the price of the sale of that house. So it is somebody looking either to develop that piece of land so that it will be suited for somebody who doesn't live here, and that's the hard part for all of us who do live here. But that's the increase in size, and I think for a long time we were concerned about the height towering over, and we worked on that. And I think we were concerned about the size, and we've worked on that. And it is change, and it's change of the little cape that sat on that property is now a 2.5-story house. What used to be maybe 3 or 4 bedrooms is now 6 bedrooms, and that's the change. And I don't know how to soften that in any way. Do you say you can't change it all? I don't understand it.
no, I don't think you say that at all. I think that there are great examples around the village of new houses
Right.
that are very sizable, where the architects have done a great job of making that house fit in harmoniously with the neighborhood. There are others where people have built houses that are simply a dramatic, you know, as Bill would say, you know, the frontal impact. They just want to make a statement.
And I have seen that too, and I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with
And
that.
I-
There's
and I-
no question,
and
there
I-
are some houses around that I'm like mind-boggled that they
Right.
were able
How
to
did that
get
pass?
I
How did
know.
that pass?
And the difference, I think, is the house that conforms to the neighborhood in a way that's not as overpowering, is bought by someone who's going to live in it and put their family in there. And the house that takes the building envelope and maximizes that building envelope at every single level. And you can tell that house just by looking at a roof line, okay? And the way the roof lines are and where they have cuts, all of this stuff.
Highest peaks right in
They've
front.
just taken that building envelope and they've maximized it. And that's why when we changed the height was I think a good thing that we did as a group. I think some of the recommendations that are going to come back to, you know, change lot coverage and GFA are going to be important. And, but that's the big difference is the application, who's the developer and who's doing this to flip, and then who's doing it because they want to, they're raising their family in it and they want to live in a house.
And I will also say, because you know that that's my business, and I'm very aware of what people buy and sell and, you know, who does what. And I find it very interesting because it seems now that buyers who are coming here, who want to be in the village, and the village is a very, very hot ticket right now, they want a newer, modern house. We have some houses that are absolutely stunningly beautiful and restored and made modern. They're not interested in that. What they're interested in is a very light, bright, white, modern interior with all upgraded bathrooms, en suite, and that's what they want. A bathroom for every bedroom, and that's what they're looking for. And that's what a lot of the builders are delivering. And now those are getting sold for top dollar on a tiny little piece of property. So it's about supply and demand. And I think that when you have a neighborhood that has either a lot of ranch houses or capes, and then someone comes in and says, you know, I'm gonna build to the marketplace, what the market wants. They're not going to build that house. They're going to build a larger house. And they're gonna look to build at least a 5-bedroom house. They're not gonna build a 3-bedroom house. They're not gonna add on to it. And that's the dilemma that we have. Do we cut it back so far that they can't do that? I don't know what to say, and I think
Well, I don't think we're gonna do that. We're not gonna
Right.
cut it back to where the ranch house gets knocked down and it's replaced by a ranch house.
Right.
But I do think that there are some things to prevent a 9-bedroom house from being built on Old Town Crossing.
Well, I agree with that.
You know, or an
Right.
8-bedroom or a
Because
7-bedroom
we've already
house
discussed the
on
basement situation.
on
I
a
mean-
third of an acre. And I
Right.
do think that's a GFA component there. That's we addressed the definition of a bedroom, we definition of a parking spot. We're going after lot coverage because there's certain components to what people do now that are removing a lot of the green space in there because they're trying to maximize the number of bedrooms. So I need all these parking spots, and I'm going to put parking all over the lawns. So I think those are good things. They're problems, but I think they're going to be good things that come out of this that study that's being done and some zoning changes. So, but the key is going to be sitting with the ARB.
Yeah, it's really going back to your initial
Right.
Right.
comment. We sort of took a loop there.
Mm-hmm.
The studies that we're doing on lot coverage are going to greatly reduce mass of a house because they're going to require less coverage, less parking, less backyard coverage, and it will reduce the house. The height of the house has reduced some of that massiveness. And the ARB is, I think they do a terrific job for what they are up against. The difficulty that they have is that mass is questionable. The applications that come in before them should already be reviewed by the building department, and the house placement and lot lines and stuff should be within code, or it shouldn't be before them.
And I also think that the ARB, sorry, Bill, do you
Go
want to
ahead,
say?
no.
I think that the ARB works hard at it. I think that the building department makes sure that everything is in order for the application, and then whatever the plans are goes over to ARB, and they have those plans up. They're over on the site, they're looking at the site, they're looking at, you know, a lot, what has to do with the house, and as it goes along, well, they have to prove it, but I mean, they're looking at what's in the neighborhood. Have there been some mistakes? There have been some mistakes, there's no question. And that's what we're trying to eliminate in the future.
But they also need, Jay, they need the tools from really this board to make their decisions.
Right.
And that's what we've been trying to do in the past year. We addressed height in the bigger lots. We addressed front and side back sky planes. And going forward, doing lot coverage is going to present them with the tools that they can make decisions and rational decisions on size and house placement. Otherwise, it's pretty difficult.
Well, I think, you'll give those tools, and that will ensure that unless you go to the ZBA, you will meet the code, but it's not going to, again, kind of solve the problem where the neighborhood is being taken into consideration. And I know we're transitioning. I think the board is trying to look at that more closely because they realize how much of an impact some of these homes have had on neighborhoods. And, back in the 80s, Times Square was all peep shows, and that's what made money. So should we have just all said, you know what, this makes money, and so we'll keep it this way, and we'll let this keep happening? I mean, I think there's a better way that you can just ensure that neighborhoods grow and develop, and I think people would still buy many of these homes if there was one or two small architectural changes that might have reduced the impact of the house on the property. And I think the board was probably reluctant to suggest them because the attitude has really been that they have no authority.
Who has no authority?
The ARB.
And they act that way, as though they have no authority to do anything. If the ZBA has, or the building inspector has approved a house, they don't change. I'd love to know
it's met
when
the
they last
criteria.
changed the architecture on a house. And I think just about every 95% of spec houses all have these V-shaped roofs right in the far front of the house, and it makes the house look bigger. And the top 10 feet of that apex is not even livable space, so it's strictly for show. You know, it's you can't live in the top of an apex. You know. And I think, you know what I'd love to see us do is just sit down and talk with them, the five of us and the five of them and anybody else that wants to come in, but
Well,
they
we can't
you know,
do that. We have to do that in open meetings, so.
Yeah, well, it's, oh, no, I don't mean to limit it to the 10 of us, but the five of us and the five of them and the third brigade. And, but I honestly, they've made some decisions that I just think, 40 Meadow Lane, and when I look at,
Yeah, I don't-
if you want it, if you haven't read it, I think the decision that they rendered on the Presbyterian Church, there they deified a few boards that were at the top of the tower and in a building that's 85% aluminum siding, and they hurt that organization. Here's a church and a religion that's been in this community. It came over on the Santa Maria, you know, and we really hurt them. They could have gotten something, and for the sake of a few boards, then they go around and you go down to 40 Meadow Lane, and materials, you're in this historic district, and materials didn't mean a GD thing. And, you know, my personal joke is the difference between an Islamic terrorist prayer and the spec builder's prayer is the Islamist faces Mecca each morning and says Allah Akbar 3 times. The spec builder faces Gin Lane and says Mullah Akbar 3 times. And I just think they've got to tone it down. I realize people with big money want fine houses. I'm for whatever they want to put in the basement is fine with me. And I don't even object to the pool houses being what they are, which is usually a second home. But I think if you're out there on the street and you stick up like this, and that house on Burnett Street, if they had just made them bevel the roof line, the apex, which is right in your face and looks out of place. I don't blame the neighbors over there for being furious over it.
Which one is that
And the famous asbestos house. But it just, all they had to do, and it's not livable space. It's all for show. And to have something that looks striking, and that's what because I'm sure the buyer.
See which house you're talking about.
Yeah, it's on the south side.
South side of Burnett Street.
And it's
Is
just
it
Right
the
in the
one with the
middle.
little window?
Yeah, the
No,
one,
I
the
just
big one
know
right in the
it's
middle.
got
Yeah, the big one.
this peak.
We
and
all
all
went
they-
over there, and I remember you specifically, Michael, said you didn't think it looked bad, and I didn't think it looked bad either. And quite honestly, it was built and sold before it even came on the market. It was gone. So obviously, it's well-liked by someone or...
By the buyers.
Yeah.
Well, I
But
mean,
not
it's
by the neighbors,
but,
you know, they-
but, you know,
they're
what you
furious
also
over it.
have on Burnett Street is you have a wide variety of lot sizes.
You do, that's...
Which then dictates house sizes. And I think, and the neighbors adjacent to this property also have very small houses and very small lot sizes, which I
Very,
think has
very,
I
an-
very
realize,
cute,
you know, if
very
the law
small
says you can go up
houses.
to 30
Yeah.
feet or whatever, you
Well,
can do it.
you know.
But that house where Hans Wopes lived, there's a new home there, and you know what? I think it's very attractive
Yeah.
and
But
very
now, that's a
fair.
big house on a
And
very
it's-
small
yes,
lot.
it
How did
is.
that happen? I
But-
don't know that.
Well, all I can say is the laws must allow them unless the ZBA gave them
But
more
I
than
don't
they're
think,
allowed to.
I don't
But-
think that Burnett Street house actually could be built now with the height changes.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
right.
I went in the other day and asked, it's 30 feet, 3 inches high, so we could have knocked 3 inches off it. But if they had just sloped that peak, but no, that peak's, it's got to throw a haymaker right at you, so you
Is that the
can't
one
miss
that
it.
goes down like that? I like that house.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't go down like that, so we can't be talking about the
maybe
same
that's
house.
it.
Look at Hans Wope's house. I think that's very
I think that's a
attractive,
big
yes.
house.
It's a lot of house on that property.
Well,
I
I
can
mean,
live with that.
this conversation is the exact issue around the ARB. So, 5 people will have different opinions on the way different things look and everything like that. So that's one of the biggest challenges that they face, is that trying to conform to neighborhoods, trying to meet the regulations, trying to get feedback from the architect and the property owner, and it's a very difficult job. So you're right. I mean, the more tools we can hand to them to say, these are laws, and I've had conversations with them over this, and we'll see what the study comes back with to help the building department with the lot coverage and the GFA component, and again, it's a challenge. I mean, this is a perfect example of a conversation, and sometimes
There's a new house on the corner of White Street and Halsey that just got bought by somebody I know quite well.
Yep.
It's a sizable house,
Yep.
beautiful architecture. I don't know who was smart enough to design it, but again, it's only a two-story house, and the slopes of the roof are such that it doesn't tower over everything. It's that tower look is awful, and I think we've gotten to the point where there's so much money in the spec building business that you almost can't have somebody on that board who's in the business. I think they can't afford to get tough with somebody else.
I think you need professionals on there. I don't think the board should be dominated by the professionals, but I think the professionals do bring a component to
It
it.
helps you've watered it
Yeah.
down. I mean, you go back 6 months ago, and there were 3 of them that were in the business, or a year ago. And frankly, I don't think they dared to do what's right for the village.
I think that it's a balance. It's trying to find the right balance, but I do think professionals on that board do provide, when the conversations are about architecture or window placement or, roof lines and conformity to, I watched Brian Brady talk to people about homes and, about, you look at this design here and the windows aren't lined up properly. When I looked at it, that didn't click for me,
It's
but it
the
clicked
roof.
for him.
It's the
And-
roof.
well,
I'm telling you, that's 80% of the problem is these damn
Yeah,
peaks.
so-
Even the 2 houses that went up next to you are interesting, because one of them goes all the way up like this. The other one is beveled somewhat and doesn't look as extreme. Now, they're both big, so I don't
One
mean to
is a
say
hip roof,
one's
this
great
is
and the
not.
other's
Yes.
not great. But it
Right.
is
And that's
amazing
exactly-
how when you get close to in the smaller zones, they're going to have as small a front yard as they possibly can. So you virtually have this thing sticking out right on the street.
And
And go look at the house that I was talking about. It's remarkably attractive, and
Which one is that one, Bill?
it's on the
White
on the
and
northeast corner of White and Halsey, and it's on almost an acre, so it's a sizable home.
No, it's
it's
a
on-
white one that
it's on-
Joe Raperto built on the
Oh,
corner.
it's on,
Yeah,
it's on the Kendrick property.
yeah, right next to
Right
it.
next
She
to her.
owned- right
Next to her,
But also
just
the
west of her.
The placement of that
Does
home
she
was
own
very
that
important too.
property? Was it
No,
next
she
to-
didn't. She didn't own
Deborah
that. No, she
Kendrick
didn't.
owned the wooded piece on the corner
Opposite.
originally.
That's opposite.
Oh,
Ori-
it's opposite it?
I think you're talking about the house on the south side of that.
No,
corner.
no, no,
He said
no, it's on the
north.
northeast corner of, the far, it's the last house on White Street.
That's a fairly large lot.
Yeah, and the house is set
Almost
back.
an acre.
Yeah.
And it's,
No,
but the house, you look at some of the other houses they go up straight and they just look more massive. And I don't think, if it gave them some living space, I could understand it. It's strictly, drive for show and putt for dough. You want dough, make the house look striking. They know what they're doing,
But
but
I
it
think,
has
I
an
think
impact.
that's all very interesting. However, we have a changing community. That's the bottom line. We have a changing community. And when, years ago, and I've said this before, years ago, you had people go to an architect, sit down and say, I want to be in the village of Southampton, and I found this piece of land, of which we don't have anymore. I found this piece of land, could you design a house for me? And then they find a builder, and the builder builds it. Now, nobody wants that. They want turnkey. They want to come out, they want to look at the house, they want it finished, they want to close on it, and they want to move their furniture in. So we have a changing community, and their wants and needs are very different from the local person who lives here. Tough pill for us to swallow,
Yeah, no,
but
I
that is
understand that.
absolutely
You've
the way
gotta
that it
live
is.
with the change. And
The other piece is, we also don't want all the houses to look alike.
No, that's true, we don't,
No.
We can't have
No, we
a
want,
whole street of hip roof houses. That would,
We
that would
want
drive me
variety,
crazy too, it
but
would
yet,
drive me crazy if I lived there.
Starting to look alike though with all these.
Well, I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
I want to know more about this, though, I want to,
We'd love, as I said, the association hired the law firm Meyer Swazi, and we'd be happy at our cost to have you speak with them, to have Rick speak with them, to have the board, they'd come out, they would look at it, because again, the Ferrara decision was cited on Monday. You guys cannot change. Setback, if setback is 15 feet and we go to 15 feet, there's nothing you can do. And
Yeah.
so I think that kind of thinking is causing the board rightly so. I mean, they obviously don't want to be sued. But I think it would really be helpful if there was policy from the get-go when people walk in the building department to say, there are two components to this. There's the formula and there's the harmony in the neighborhood. And both of them apply, not one greater than the other. And I think if that were made more clear, it would give the ARB a better opportunity to recommend some changes that might continue to maintain the 7-bedroom house with 7 baths, but by tiering it up, having a first floor or 1.5 floor section attached to the 2 or 2.5 story section would soften the impact or set it back a little bit or set it back even further than what was planned, would really do a lot for some of these problem projects that we've seen. So I think that's really the issue. I agree with you, you're not going to change right now what the demand is. Although we as a village do have a bit of a responsibility because there is going to come a day when people are potentially, maybe will not all be looking for that same thing.
That's true, but then the market dictates that.
The market will adjust.
Yes.
But the problem is what we will have left as a village in the meantime, because if you can't sell your house, you're going to rent it. And you're probably going to rent it on Airbnb, and you might rent it for the weekend for parties.
Speculation move.
It is, but I've seen that happen in my neighborhood already, where an individual rented his home for a large party weekend. So when that starts happening, that changes our community. And maybe what that does then is also change the desirableness of this community. So I think those are issues we have to be prepared to look at, and I think we can make some relatively small tweaks. I commend the board for having done that already. But as I said, I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with them and have that discussion so that at least the board that's empowered with maintaining the harmony in the village has the tools that they're comfortable using. And if they don't, they should ask, well, why, or what can we do? And then you as a board can determine whether that's sufficient to protect the village and do the right thing by development. I mean, we all know there's going to be development, no doubt about it. And there's always going to be a house that slips through, and your opinion's a little different than mine, different than Bill's. Everybody's a little bit different. But generally, I think we can go through the village, and we all probably would have 90% of the same houses on the list that shouldn't have gotten through.
You could make some modest adjustments. No,
Right, yeah.
I realize what the market is and where it is, and but I just don't think you have to make, things don't have to be garish, We don't need to have an uplift bra or something like that. We just, and I think the peaks in the houses are the damnedest curse that you find all over there, and they're always right on the street. And go down and look at the house on Lee Avenue there. It's an attractive house, but what makes it attractive actually is unlivable space, and it's all for show, and it's somewhat out of place. And if they bevel the darn corner, if they made that one small adjustment, it's still going to be just as big, as much living space.
On Lee Avenue, you said?
Yeah, they're all over the community. I mean, you just see these huge peaks. The one that holds the record is the one on Somerset. If you go on Somerset, the first house on your left has 3 gigantic peaks on the house itself, and then the damn garage has a peak that's probably 28 feet high to match the other 3 peaks. And all they had to do was bevel them, have a 45-degree angle or something like that, and it wouldn't make have the impact and be as obtrusive compared to what else is there. But I realize where the world is and where the market is, and I don't mind any, make money.
But I always think, how do you make something? Okay, let's say you have a community that has, some smaller lots, some larger lots. You have a cape. You have, the neighborhood was basically Cape and Mansion. How do you, if you now know that your community is changing, which ours is changing, obviously, and your community is changing, and we no longer have the person who goes to the architect who designs the house, who goes to the builder, but we have people who come out and want turnkey. They want to go look at it, they want to decide. That seems to be the market, and that may change at some point too. But how do you decide that that new house, that is what the person, your buyer, or what all the developers' buyers want, how do you say that that's harmonious if it's the only one in the neighborhood that is going to be different because now that their builder's building a 6-bedroom house? I don't know how that works. In other words, it's a problem. So that's the problem. How do you make that new house harmonious in a neighborhood that is, a third of an acre to a half an acre, and the house is a cape, and the other houses along the street are similar, and you can't. That's the issue. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of. We're seeing a lot of changes in neighborhoods that suit the new person who's coming here because they're obviously buying. And then you have the person who owns the house who says, gee, my house is worth $1.5 million. Who would have ever thought? I paid $26,000 for this house. Who would have ever thought my house would be $1.5 million? I'm selling and I'm moving to a new neighborhood where I can really afford to live because I can't afford to live here anymore. So they cash in. They're tickled pink. They feel bad about leaving, but they're tickled pink. They're going to go live where their kids live or whatever. How do you take that away from them? How do you say to them, well, you know what, now they can't build this anymore? And I agree that we have to look at all of this, but how do you devalue their property by saying, guess what, they can't build this anymore? It's a really tough decision to move along and figure out for everybody. And I just don't understand. I mean, I understand the harmonious, but I think it's difficult to achieve, especially if you go through these neighborhoods. The whole neighborhood over in Pelletreau, that whole neighborhood, have you driven through that neighborhood lately? Major change going on over there. I think a lot of it's quite attractive, but those houses are big houses on lots, and they are not harmonious with what the rest of the neighborhood is. And I don't hear anybody saying anything about that. They're not. How do you take that value away? You can't take that value away from those people. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to do.
Well, I think, zoning is somewhat arbitrary to begin
Right.
with. I mean, obviously, you make a judgment call. But I think you have to look at what is sustainable out here environmentally. And so I think you can make, some good judgments. And obviously, there's always going to be some debate. And I think many of the houses that have been built, again, if there had been a slight alteration or perhaps an extra 5 feet on the property line, so that we'd end up with a little bit more grass, and if we had done a better job in terms of making sure there was sufficient parking, because many of these houses really don't have the parking. And I think we're going to see a problem, I think, in the next 2 to 3 years on many of our streets.
Well, that's why the parking definition of a parking spot and the definition of a bedroom and what we did last summer and the height change was extremely important. And so
I think that the code, again, I'm not a urban planner, but it probably was written to give everybody the maximum in each metric, never expecting that everybody would maximize every metric. And that's what's happened.
because people lived in those homes. And they
Pardon?
built, the people lived in those homes, and then they thought about, this is my electric bill, and this is gonna be my water bill, and this is the side bill, this is what I need. It's a whole different mentality. I watched my son do it with his house, and he designed his house around what he needed and what his future plans were. He thought about electric and water and all of these things and it's appropriate. And he didn't, it's 27 feet high, and he's got ample parking and all these different things, so,
In a way, it is unfortunate because we can't have, there's some beautiful houses that are
Right.
38 or 40 feet.
right.
And we have one on Old Town Crossing it's not that tall, but it's very narrow. And it's the most beautiful farmhouse on the street. And I'm sure that will be demolished at some point.
Look at the Manger's house.
Pardon?
Manger's house is a beautiful house.
Right.
And height that right on the ocean. It's,
That particular house, I think it's 24 Old Town Crossing, doesn't max out at all. It's got a beautiful side yard on both sides. It's probably half the width of some of the new houses that are going in. They're 40 feet, it's 25 feet. Not quite half, but, and I think that that's really the problem, is that we've gone to the point where if you tell somebody, here's the maximum, guess where they're going to go on every single metric.
Absolutely.
And so I think we have to look at it with that in mind, and I'm glad that we've got somebody who's coming in and who's going to do that.
Yeah.
So you wasted too much time, but anyway, I appreciate you
So your 3
looking at
minutes
that.
are up, Jay. So
My therapy session is over.
our therapy session's over.
I just want to know, Bill, what is it, the push-up bra for the house? Is that the new industry term? Is that another new industry term?
So as we move on, so anybody else from the public like to speak? Michael, I see you raise your hand here. So,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about my Mullah Akbar, and
Well, I build the,
just identify yourself
Michael White.
for the,
I build,
Address?
Pulaski Street. I build the push-up bras of houses in the village. And, I think it's,
You have to stand over there so that the camera can see.
okay. I think the problem is,
there you go.
I think the problem is I like what Nancy was saying. What you're talking about is being arbitrary on what you think is architecture. Today is, a peaked roof. Tomorrow it's a flat roof. And for people to say what someone could build on their house it's almost obnoxious to say, well, I don't like your house because the peak's too high. Or I want you to drop your house to 30 feet. Meanwhile, my house is 35 feet tall. And it's wrong, and there's a lot of, I built mine and now you're going to shrink yours. And that's what's going on in this village, because there's a lot of outspoken people that have been talking about these large houses. Meanwhile, they live in them. And that's,
I would disagree with that
Really?
statement. I think that there are some people that are outspoken that live in a large home. But I think a lot of the people who have come out are really looking for more conformity to the neighborhoods. And so I think that's the challenge. That's the challenge of the ARB. And that's why it makes the job very difficult. And that's why I said, it's a very good discussion up here, because you could get 5 different opinions about something. And so an ARB is charged with, how do you take an application when someone wants what you want to do, and how do you say, okay, you have certain rights as a property owner, but yet everybody living on that street has rights also. And how do you take your project and look at the zoning laws and the setbacks that we have, and try to get some kind of conformity to the neighborhood, so you don't turn around and have a square pink house in the middle of a historic on Elm Street. It sticks out like a sore thumb. So how do you do stuff like that? So I think that's the biggest challenge of the board, and that's part of trying to protect the neighborhoods and the village of Southampton, protect our property values, protect the value of what we have here. As Nancy says, the turnover is great. We swore in the ambulance officers and the fire department officers up here earlier. Most of those guys who stood up and raised their hand to, get up in the middle of the night and protect our community and respond. And, when somebody's having a heart attack, if they had to buy a house today, can't afford to buy a house. And so that's why I'm a big advocate for us to look at affordable housing opportunities in the village or around the village and areas and stuff. But it's the market does dictate. And the families that are living in these homes for 30 or 40 years, and the parents pass away and the kids don't live here anymore, hey, you know what, they're trying to maximize their dollar when they sell the home. So who buys that? The developer does, the second homeowner, or somebody who's retiring from a job and can come out here and wants to live out here. And,
But that's not an argument to say, well, if somebody buys a house on the block, you're actually raising there's never been a house built on any block in this village where it's lowered the price of a house. It's just never happened.
You
Not
mean lower
disagree.
the value of the
Of the neighborhood, correct,
That's what you're saying.
correct.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened, and it doesn't make any sense to try to limit people to what they can do, because you're talking
Oh, no,
about,
you-
you're
that
talking
I
about.
totally
Yeah, you
disagree
can't.
with.
Well,
You
listen.
have, we have a responsibility, we have a the value of the house, no matter what happens. So if the house is bought and the house is 40, 50 years old, and it's knocked down and a new house is built, automatically that's gonna improve the value of that property, and it's gonna improve the value of the properties adjacent to that,
Provided it's done properly.
provided it's done,
Because if
yeah.
you don't have any rules, and what you're saying is, why can't they just do what they want and build what they want?
No, I'm not saying that.
Build right to the footprint of the property, and I have seen neighbors, especially up in Queens and all of that, where they've put up these very tall houses on these very small lots, and they have no yard, but that's what they've done. We don't want to see that happen
Well,
here.
I agree. I'm not saying not to have zoning by any means, but, you know, the whole concept of property rights in this country was supposed to be your property rights, and they end at your property line. And I think Thomas Jefferson actually said that. It's not for somebody else to tell you what to do in your house. I mean, I'm not supposed to
Yeah,
be
we-
able to tell Nancy
Wait a
who's
second.
living in her house or
Why should we have an architectural review board?
why.
Yeah.
Well, I
What are they
mean,
supposed to do?
well, I'll tell you the Architectural Review Board. First off, the reason that it was made was because of reasons like Levittown. Now, you're talking about something, you say, I want everything in harmony.
You think
in the
our
neighborhood.
architectural review board was created because of Levittown?
That was one of the reasons.
Nonsense.
In New York State.
Nonsense.
And that's absolutely true. The reason the ARB was made in New York State was because it was supposed to be by professionals to sit on the board, architects, builders, and developers, not people that don't know how to read plans and how to understand architecture. That's
You
the
want them to
first
just
thing.
sit there and go, you want that? Do it.
No, I'm not saying that.
Come on.
I'm not saying that. Let me finish. The second part is, it was to be made so people wouldn't build the same house over and over again. And listen, you go to these subdivisions up west,
Right.
it's the same house over and over again. And that's why that was made.
You know, you build houses, you know better than to make cookie cutter houses.
I haven't made
There's
one in my
nobody-
life.
And nobody in the village of Southampton pretty much has, in the last 40 years, hasn't
That's
done
not
it.
because of the ARB.
No, it's because of the market.
Right, right.
And they didn't want it. Levittown catered to something, you know, there was a market for Levittown.
Right. But the-
And back then, when
But
the
this isn't
person bought a
Levittown.
Levittown house, they were thrilled to have it.
right.
You
And
didn't
it
answer
didn't
my
bother them
question.
that the
I-
neighbor
I
had the
agree
same
with
house.
you.
Why the ARB? Why do we even need one?
Well, I think you need an ARB that's level, you know, a lot of times.
Level? What the
there's
hell does that mean?
Because, first off, they're not in.
Well, I think-
They're not in
I-
the zoning business, okay? They can't tell you to put your house at 25 feet when the law says 20, all right?
Well, we're not gonna respond to anything related to any kind of legal proceedings or anything like that, so, that's, okay.
I'm just, you know,
Well, the ARB plays a significant role around here. They have a very difficult job. And it's trying to look at massing and harmony and trying to process these applications in a way that protects the village of Southampton, but yet recognizes property rights and stuff. When Thomas Jefferson said that, I mean, you know, we didn't have spec builders out here, and they weren't building to them, you
They
know.
didn't have them
Well,
there
most
They
of
either.
the
were-
country thinks like that.
Yeah.
About property rights.
Well, look, I don't know if I agree with you on that, so, but,
Well,
Well,
but
everyone
most
wants
of the.
to know, you know this, everybody wants to know what's going to happen next to them. And they want to make sure that they're landscaped well enough, and they want to make sure that there isn't a balcony looking down into their bedroom. They want to make sure they have they maintain as much privacy, and on a smaller lot, that's a very difficult thing to
I
do.
agree, but you know what? I agree with the ARB. I mean, Brian Brady's fixed plenty of my plans to make them better. I mean, he really has.
And that's why it's important
And
that you
he's an
have
expert.
professionals on the board,
Right.
along with lay people on the
Right.
board too, that represent other people.
Right.
You know,
And Ham Hoag's fixed plans of ours that were,
and was a big asset to the
you know, he
ARB.
wasn't a rubber stamp guy. I mean, he wasn't a guy that said, do whatever you, in fact, he was probably the hardest guy to pass through. So I don't think that's fair to say people in the trade are just gonna rubber stamp it. I think they even have a more opinion that's gonna make it tougher for applicants.
And I mean, Christina Redding has been on that board for
She's
the
great.
longest time. And Christina has a real, she's very tasteful in everything that she makes her decisions on. That's the way I look at it. She has a really good architectural eye. She knows what she wants in this village and what she doesn't want in this village, and she makes her decisions. She doesn't rubber stamp things. So
I don't think any of the members rubber stamp anything.
No, I
And
agree
I think
with
they
that.
work hard, and I think they
I think
review
they
the
work
applications.
incredibly hard. I mean, a
and
lot of
think they
people don't
go out to the
realize they go out to
sites.
the sites.
When you,
Yeah.
when you look at the agenda on the ARB, that's why we made the change to do a 30-day prior to submission, to give them ample time to review things. So it's a challenging job. It's a challenging job, so.
Do you think 40 Meadow Lane really was compatible with the neighborhood?
No.
And they're all rich houses down there. There's no, there's no ranch houses down there. And here it says, right in the booklet, that our own Architectural Review Board's advisor, upper story decks that may impinge upon a neighbor's privacy are discouraged. Hell, there's a helipad on the top of that house, and it got the tin roof or zinc roof.
Yeah.
But that's,
And the
Well,
materials,
I wrote-
materials turn out to be immaterial, and yet, when the Presbyterian Church wanted something that would have given them some money that they really needed, oh, God, Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John built those boards, and we can't touch them because, they're 45 feet up, and you think they were taking the clock of the tower down. And the the church is 85% aluminum siding. And what do? They got tough with that.
Well,
They give the other guy, they gave him the gold card.
I wrote some parameters, I think I sent
Yeah.
to, and I think the problem is with that whole little list of that really means nothing because it's not a law. And I think what I wrote to you guys is some of the things you have to change to a law, like the rooftop decks, and you gotta make it where there's gotta be a pitch on a roof, because I have an applicant right now, he wants to put a flat roof house in the 12,500 zone, which would look horrendous. And you can't really stop him because there's nothing in the law. There should be a law that says you need at
That
least a 7
certainly will not be
pitch.
harmonious.
But how are you gonna stop him if he,
Not harmonious.
what
Gotta
does that
prove it.
mean? I mean, you go to court with these
There's
terms
not
and
another
the
flat
judge.
roof house in the entire mile and a half around.
Listen, there was
That's
no
not
flat roof
harmonious.
houses on Gin Lane until a couple of years ago. So the problem is, what does that mean? Because when you go to court and you say to a judge, it's not harmonious, he asks you what harmonious means. And we have a very small village, and I think you gotta be more proactive.
No, you did make some nice recommendations that we're looking at and stuff, so it's.
Because it's coming, there's gonna be
Yeah.
flat roof houses, there's
The
gonna be
modern
things.
look is very in now.
Right, in the barn
A
style.
lot of
and-
glass and a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that everybody recognizes
Look at their
40
hedge 5
Meadow
feet
Lane is,
away.
And, rooftop decks, I know that's a problem. Sometimes you could get away with it, you have enough room, sometimes you can't. But it should be in the code that, if you're X amount of feet from your neighbors, you gotta shield it or do something, because
But I believe that is in the code.
it's not. I don't think it's in the code. You could
I
put,
know that there were no balconies allowed if you were so many feet away from a house looking down on another house.
I never see it.
And no windows, and windows aren't allowed on certain sizes if you're only so many feet away.
Right. But I think there's a lot in the code that's missing that you could stop this. And I don't do rooftop decks when they're close to people. I don't think that's a selling point. I really,
Want to know something that's going to be funny? This may strictly be an untrue rumor, but I was told Saturday night I was at an affair, and I was told that the guy who built 40 Meadow Lane has flipped it. Now, nobody else, I doubt it. I frankly can't believe it. But if he
No.
has, that would be the frosting on
Yeah.
the cake.
No, I don't
But we'll
find
see.
that.
The person
it's a
probably
monster,
will.
that house. Well, thank you.
So, yeah, so thanks, Mike, and
Thanks.
and thanks for your 3 minutes and stuff. So, anyone else from the public would like to speak? Christine, come on.
Christine Wicker. I just throwing out, I like listening to all this. But I just wanted to throw out, I live on a quarter of an acre on Cameron Street. I am one of the few in this village who's never been approached by a builder because they can't build a house big enough on a quarter of an acre. There isn't as much of an upside. And that's what I figure. And most people I know that have capes on a quarter of an acre are sort of protected, in a sense, from the money. crusade. So, that's what I just wanted to say. I mean, the smaller lots, the zoning that you have is going to protect those from having humongous-sized houses. The setbacks, on the other hand, of the streetscapes, I agree totally with some of the things I hear, that it's nice. I mean, if you look at Cameron Street, you know, they're all very different houses, but they're all, you know, with similar setbacks, and the setbacks are not very large. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. I do think that whatever tools you can give the ARB is helpful, and everybody's aware of change, but it seems like those of us on a quarter of an acre are protected. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Okay, so we're going to close this public comment section. We're going to do board presentations here. Fire marshal vehicle here. Fire Marshal Dean McNamara.
Good evening. Just a little rundown. A couple months ago, we came to you in efforts to try to go out to public bid. You were nice enough to let us go out to bid. Those numbers came back with two bids total, one for the vehicle and one for the emergency lights package. Just wanted to offer those to for your consideration. Plus two was the one bid winner for the pickup, and CC Electronics was the only bid for the electronics.
Okay. Good. Mike, did you
Well, Dean, maybe you could explain so that the public can understand it, the reason that you want to switch into the Chevy pickup truck, because we have that larger truck that sits in the parking lot 90% of the time, and your actions are actually trying to reduce the cost of carrying vehicles. And in today's market and in today's emergency services, you really need a vehicle that is constantly being used, that is equipped to go. So,
Sure. Our office currently had 3 vehicles. One of the vehicles was a 95 Ford Explorer, I believe. That one was decommissioned, so we're down one vehicle for daily use. We have an investigation van that holds all the equipment for when an unfortunate situation happens where you need generators and lights and turnout gear and everything else that goes along with it. In that van, the van only has 1,300 miles on it. We've been 8 years. And what the pickup will do is take the stuff out of the van, put it in the back of the pickup and throughout, and then that truck would be able to be used on a daily basis regularly during inspections, and then be on person when we go to emergency scenes and fire calls, and we don't have to try to coordinate maneuvering, getting a truck from the firehouse, to the scene and stuff. So it'll become an asset, and with that, you can eliminate one truck from our division, and then we'd be down to 2 instead of 3 in the overall fleet.
So the truck that has everything on it, which is the truck that you usually take if there's either emergency or an issue, you're going to now take the equipment off of that and put it on this?
The van, because of its size, typically is left for just the purpose of the investigations for those when they do come. Luckily, they've been far and few, So by it sitting, with the pickup, you can take all that stuff and put it in there, and then it becomes an everyday vehicle.
You leave all that stuff on an everyday basis?
Well, you never know what you're going to need, and the difficulty is that the way it's set up now, when you need something, you need to employ somebody else to come and get the truck, or to try to, you need both units at the scene, but you can only have one person, so you got to bring in more people. So it helps streamline.
So the big truck only has 1,100 miles on it, the one that you're talking about. And we got it in what year? Okay. And then the one that we're replacing with this has what? What year is that?
I'm sorry, which truck?
Well, we're actually replacing really 2 vehicles with these. One was the 95.
Which is off the road.
Which is off the road, decommissioned. And the second one is the van. So we're eliminating the van.
Eliminating the van That has 1,100 miles on it? I didn't think so. Are we?
It's up to, it's up, it's up for.
Well, there
Well,
is.
that's
for another
there's a-
There isn't really
Yeah,
a demand for the use of the van once we take all the equipment out of there. And then the
So you want to
van,
replace that van with this, that's what you're saying?
And then,
Well-
with part of Tom, he doesn't have a current vehicle right now assigned to him. So then the Tahoe becomes his vehicle for daily work, and then the truck would be my vehicle for daily work. So we'd have two
And we
vehicles.
won't have the vehicle that has the 1,100 miles on it. We're going to use that someplace else. Is that what we're saying?
yeah, that's gonna get, reused in, what department are we?
We're looking at for parks,
Yeah,
which I have the, the trade-in value right now is $14,000, which is
because of
ridiculous.
the age of the vehicle.
Right.
Mileage on it, why would we
Yeah.
give that up?
Right.
That's my point. It's, I don't think it makes any
Right.
economics
Yeah.
to trade it in,
For the Parks Department, it
Well,
has
they can-
value.
Parks
Yeah.
Department can be used,
They can
yeah.
use it?
They
Okay,
need for
great.
irrigation supplies and such.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an
Basic-
everyday vehicle, but they can use it to cart things around.
Right,
You're
okay,
streamlining
now it's
down a
clear
few
in my head.
vehicles to
Sorry
just a
about
couple of
that.
vehicles.
Yep.
Sorry, Dean, but now it's clear in my head.
Oh, whatever it
Yeah,
takes.
essentially, his department is going from 3 vehicles down to 2.
Right, okay.
But the other thing is that, when, and Tom takes your vehicle, I mean, Tom's vehicle is not a personal use vehicle, and I know he lives up the island, and he makes sure that vehicle stays in the village of Southampton. Yeah, that way we're not paying for
Right,
him to drive to and from work every day. So,
right. Okay, so what are we doing?
And I
next
think
now?
that vehicle is, anyway, has Southampton on it. Isn't there logos on that?
That's correct.
Well, it's not stopped other people from trying to take him to
It's true.
other places, so, but, yeah, so. Okay, so let's see, want to take some action on this? I mean, it's,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to purchase a 2016 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD as per bid specifications, along with the emergency vehicle lighting and equipment as per bid specifications.
Second? Second? Favor?
Aye. Great. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks, Dean.
You better look good in that.
Yeah. Oh, he will. He will.
Come on, look at
I just want to clarify that before he gives the go-ahead to Buzz Chu, that we are going to retain the other one and not trade it in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna, that, yeah,
Appreciate it.
makes sense to.
Yeah, for that kind of the value.
Parks
it's-
Department and what they
Exactly.
use it for and the amount of, yeah.
Yeah, it's 1,300 miles on it.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense, so. Thanks, Dean. See you, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, well, no public hearings, no communications to the board. Suggested resolutions, resolve at the reading of the minutes for the public session of December 10th, 2015, and a special meeting of December 30th, 2015 be dispensed with, that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator. The actions taken at meeting B and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, resolve that the claims for the warrants dated January 14th, 2016 totaling $840,782.04, warrant 10 general fund, $4,799 and $125, warrants 8 and 16 trust fund, $72,767.10, warrant 8 capital reserve fund, and the village payrolls for the period from December 11th, 2015 to January 7th, 2016 be ordered and approved. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? 1, page 2, amateur wholesale pistols and ammo for police department, $9,801.23. Bell Ringer Communications, Access Computer for police department, $1,920. Page 3, Black Gold Industries, cold patch for the highway department, $2,308.60. CSA Employee Benefit Fund, January premium, $24,291.85. Page 4, Candace Clanahan, meetings and minutes for the ZBA and Planning Board, $1,040. Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, fourth quarter MTA tax, $10,344.22. Page 6, Chris Eckley, medical reimbursement for the ambulance department, $1,000. Farrell Fritz, legal fees for the sewer district, $6,535. Firematic supply, adapter and parts for the fire department, $1,647. Page 7, 2 payments to fundamental business services for court collections, one for November in the amount of $2,974.50, December $3,465. Page 8, Grade A petroleum, oil, and antifreeze for the garage, $1,219. Daniel Guzowitz, ZBA medical reimbursement, $1,000. HO Pen Machinery, a rebuild with buckle assembly for the payloader, $19,293.85. repair hardware flowing onto page 10. Supplies for last month, $1,597.79. Intelligent Products, Mutt Mitts for the parks, $1,370.85. Page 11, Island Tech Services, bulletin board repairs and extenders for the fire department, $1,004. Island Tech Services again, hardware upgrades for the fire department, $3,335. Johnson Electrical Construction Corp., December traffic signal maintenance, $1,350. Page 13, Liberty Iron Works, a plow repair, $1,500. Page 14, Lynch's Garden Center, $2,649.35. This is a reissue of check from last month that was missing in the mail. Lynch's Garden Center for December, $1,038.69. Messiano Consulting, grant writing for the village, $1,029.45. Morgan Order Supply, going on page 17, December parts, $3,866.03. Nelson Pope and Voorhees, Planning Board review, $1,611. And you've got three more payments to Nelson Pope, all for Planning Board work, $1,040, $1,400, and $1,211.05. Page 19, New York State Employees Health Insurance for February, $271,964.71. Next page, same thing for January, $273,972.33. Three payments to the Office of State Controller for court collection fees, October, $20,841.83, September, $11,152, and November, $12,385.60. Page 22, Pierce Manufacturing, mechanical training for the Pierce fire trucks, $1,200. Page 23, Pine Barrens Printing, 4x4 permits, $1,388.09. Two payments to PSE&G for the firehouse, $3,714.17, and the streetlights, $7,678.04. Page 24, Red the Uniform Tailor, holsters for PD, $1,196.80. Page 25, Ronco Building Cleaning Supplies, $3,784.35. Safety marking, striping for the Highway Department, $9,259.05. Sadie Levine, CPAs, payment towards the May 31 audit, $8,833.33. Page 26, two payments to South Shores Fire and Safety for hoses for the Fire Department, $8,070 and $1,614. Page 27, Southampton Christmas lights, repair street lights, $1,781.50. Two payments to Sprague operating reserves for both for 3,000 gallons of gasoline delivered on the 14th and the 30th of December, $4,430.70 and $4,071. George Stevenson, Planning Board medical reimbursement, $1,000. Suffolk County National Bank, interest on the first responder bond, $1,000. Suffolk County Water Authority, water utility bill, $1,865.65. Page 28, Suzanne Hans, transcription services, $1,334. Tyson Krupp, services to the Hampton Road Firehouse elevator, $1,533.74. Vehicle tracking solutions, GPS tracking for DPW, $1,055.56. And page 29, Verizon telephone bill for December, $3,831.18. And on page 30, Visa Life, January life insurance premium for the ambulance, $1,670.67. Last one is on page 32, Wolf Floyu, new carpet for the ambulance, barn, $1,966. First trust warrant, SA Plumbing and Heating, payment for the water service at Agawam Park, $3,500. Capital Reserve warrant, J.P. Mulvey Plumbing and Heating, the rough plumbing for the second floor of Village Hall, $6,970. Pearson Septic and Excavating, septic and cesspool repair at Cooper's Beach, $8,500. SCC Construction Management, fees for the ambulance barn, $8,500. And Stott Architecture, architect fees for the ambulance barn, $48,413.10. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to make overages for the period December 11th, 2015 through January 14th, 2016. Have a motion? Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, $24,000 to radio operators holiday vacation from contingency. Item 2, $20,000 to fire utilities and fire miscellaneous. Item 3, $5,000 to parks equipment from park supplies. And item 4, $10,000 to planning commission expenditures from contingency. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, resolved that the sale of tax liens on all unpaid real property taxes for the fiscal year 2015-2016 will be held at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 15, 2016, in the Boardroom, Municipal Building, 23 Main Street, Southampton, New York, that the notice to this effect be published in the official paper, the Southampton Press. Got a motion?
Make that motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the release of a balance of a performance bond in the amount of $20,000 to Gary and Susan Garrabrand for 80 Meadowmere Lane, Southampton, New York, as recommended by Jonathan Foster, Building Inspector. Can I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the release of the balance of a performance bond in the amount of $5,000 to First Coastal Corp. for 272 Gin Lane, Southampton, New York, as recommended by Jonathan Foster, Building Inspector. Can I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the release of a balance of a performance bond in the amount of $20,000 to HHCM Inc. for 322 Meadow Lane, Southampton, New York, as recommended by Jonathan Foster, Building Inspector. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the Capital Reserve Fund, subject to permissive referendum. A payment to J.P. Mulvey, $6,970 from the facility reserves, and a payment of $8,500 to Pearson Septic and Excavating from the facility reserves. Can I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 1, East Lane drainage. Gil? you wanna-
Gil, hey, Gil. All right.
This, I hope, will be a really quick one. This is a request for the village to abandon a drainage easement that was set up at a property at the end of Down East Lane in 1964. And I had submitted a package back in November which explains the history of it. I can repeat it for you if you want, but I think the letter was self-explanatory. I did speak with the building department, with John Foster and with Gary Gillespie, and they both agree it's a good idea. I don't think anybody wants road runoff running into the wetlands and the creeks. And what they suggested was that we agree to install some additional drainage structures in the end of Down East Lane. My clients agreed to that, so we would hope that with all of that, that you would act favorably on that request.
Rick, did you want to make a comment?
Seems like a fairly simple thing to me. There's an old drainage easement that goes right through basically the middle of the modified lot that's subdivision that's before the planning board. It doesn't serve any purpose, according to John Foster and Gary, and they would rather see that abandoned than drainage structures in the cul-de-sac down East Lane. So I don't see any problem with this at all. I assume that you're going to end up wanting a legal document to cover for the abandonment. Okay, so if you want to, we could adopt I could word a resolution for tonight that would authorize the mayor to execute this document, and then it can be submitted later, and et cetera.
Okay.
Is the property going to be redeveloped, Gil?
Sorry?
Is this being redeveloped?
Yes, it is.
And with the redevelopment, will we get a chance, will there be a chance to look at this again to see if any additional drainage is necessary? Because right now with what's there, this is probably gonna be fine, but if it changes, the property changes and the house changes and everything, I just wanna make sure it's adequate. Is that correct? I would think that
Well,
would be
that
correct.
was my question, how many
Yeah.
rings you're putting in, and
According to what Gary recommended, it's 2 additional rings, and again, it's to handle runoff from the street.
right.
So it really doesn't have anything to do with the development of the property, it has to do with street runoff.
Right,
Well,
but
the
as
only
property's
reason-
developed, there's more runoff.
Yeah, there is more
Right.
runoff. Because you can't
The
go
planning
anywhere.
board will look at that, the planning board typically looks at
Well,
that
that's
during
what
the
my question. I want to make sure that
subdivision process.
when that application goes in, that the new house, that the drainage is adequate for the street now with the new house on there. That was my only
On
question.
top of that, the DEC will also review the development of these 2 properties because of the tidal wetlands, so you'll get 2 levels of review.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Rick?
Want me to word something? Resolve that the mayor is authorized to execute a legal document providing for abandonment of the drainage easement as described in the November 12, 2015 letter from Gilbert G. Flanagan-esque, and providing for installation at the owner's expense of drainage facilities in the cul-de-sac portion of Down East Lane, also as described in said letter.
A motion for that?
The motion?
Second?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Did you enjoy the meeting, Gil?
Sorry?
Did you enjoy the meeting? Because you had to sit through.
Very end.
You don't have to respond to that.
Yeah, no choice.
Department head reports, so at the next village board meeting in
First one in
February.
February, right?
Yep,
Yep.
sorry. The first meeting in February, we met with your department heads to talk about the accomplishments of the last year, setting goals for 2016-17 fiscal year, and which falls into the budget piece and justification behind some of the issue, things that they'd like to do in the budget. So be prepared to come in and talk for about 3 to 5 minutes on each one of your departments, and I always find it extremely informative and I hope the public does too, to find out all the great things that that their money's going to and what these guys do throughout the village. So, yeah.
Item 3, just want to let you know, all the department heads have the worksheets for the 2016-2017 budget. So they're in the process of doing that, and they're going to go through you to review it, and I need it back by February 19th, which is a Friday, to
Okay. Great.
get a draft proposal to you guys by March. On Cooper's Beach, the concession ad has been placed in today's paper and the 21st. That bid is also due back on Friday, the 19th of February.
For a bid. Okay.
Friday, what?
Friday, February 19th.
February.
It's also in the middle of the winter vacation
Oh.
for all
There
the
you go.
kids. Yeah,
Actually, the end of it, right?
yeah. So,
Mark, you want to go through the Cameron Burger proposal?
yeah, well, basically what this is it's a few different things. So, did we ever see Dr. Gobler's proposal?
No.
We didn't see that yet, so. Okay. So with found a few things with the sewer district. One of the things that we had to do was do an archaeological survey of the area, and so we engaged as part of the whole secret process, and we engaged Cameron Engineering to do the secret piece for H2M, and they brought in Berger. So there has been obviously more to the initial scope that's been required to meet all the some of the issues with to meet the secret requirements and stuff. So so we have here today proposals to authorize us to do some more work, and so Steve, anything else you want to add to that? It's pretty self-explanatory in the options and stuff. So the detailed cost. So there's a few different options, and they're trying to keep everything down to a minimal number, really. So what I'm looking for tonight is an authorization for me to sign the Cameron Engineering, and then also the Burger, those Burgers archaeological survey. And so
So what is the archaeological survey exactly?
Shovel test of a lot of the areas, going around and doing digs in certain places where would be disruptive.
Disruptive in what way?
Well, and in the way that, you're going to build the sewer plant, and,
Oh.
you're going to be doing that, you're going to have,
Okay, so it's specifically for that area.
it
And
really
soil
is.
disturbance.
Yeah, all of that stuff. So, basically that's an area where there's things we have to take into consideration, so the archaeological component to it, so.
So what more is Cameron doing? I just got this, so I didn't really look.
Okay. Well, I mean,
So we're hiring them because we needed a much broader scope done in order to get through the secret process, is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay.
So what it is, Cameron Engineering's proposal is to prepare the analysis of the growth inducing aspects of a sewer system. So we wanted to, and that's part of the whole secret process, is to understand growth. So, and it's also includes the shovel test required by the state, which that is. So, and then there's a proposal for Cameron Engineering and H2M. The original proposals were for relatively limited pieces, and what we've asked them to do in the process is to expand that and really get into the environmental components and study the environmental impact. And those are all driven by the public forums that we've had and the requests from people that want to make sure that we are, looking at impacts and growth and so that's really, these proposals are really driven out of those variety of meetings.
Right. So, I just find that?
Well, the cost for the analysis of the growth, including aspects of the sewer system, okay, that's a big scope. The archaeological survey by Louis Berger, and it would be additional works responded to comments on the supplement, the EAF, the additional archaeological survey, the coordination, preparation of additional secret documents, and attend meetings, and so that total is.
Well, I'm seeing on page 19,7,
Right.
I don't know if that's the total amount, that's the $9.
That's for the Cameron piece.
Yes, and the other one is 17,000.
Yes.
The other one is
$17,447.25.
So it's roughly 17.
Well, it's roughly
37,000.
$37,000, right, yeah. So I'd like to do two motions. So one is a motion authorizing me to sign the Cameron Engineering December 18th proposal.
Election Mark, the Berger proposal
Is part of that?
Part of it, so it's one proposal for both.
Okay, so it's, because technically
It's A
it's
and B
actually
on
Cameron
page
who's
3.
actually hiring Berger.
Correct.
to,
They're going to
do the
oversee
work.
Berger's work.
Was this always an anticipated part of the process, or is this, we're just doing a little more due diligence based on, conversations and questions and so forth?
Well, I think we anticipated that we were going to have to do the environmental impact stuff. We were going to have to, so I think the initial proposals, when we went in and thought, well, we'll study this, we'll develop the basic district, and it's going to cost us X number of dollars for that. So, but we recognize now that, the state's going to have additional requirements, so we're trying to get in front of a lot of that work and get it out. So, we said to Karen, let's go ahead and do this now instead of waiting a year down the road and then having somebody to come back in and do the work. So in the grand scheme of things, when we were looking at the budget of this, we knew this was a component to it, but where it fell in the timeline it's earlier now than what we had built into the timeline. So, making a motion to authorize me to sign the December 18th, 2015 letter from Cameron Engineering. Yeah.
Those the good ones, the new ones?
So it's for $19,447.25. Well, that includes the burger, 17,000. It does. So if you look at, go to B.
Because I saw that.
So
Oh,
here.
plus,
So it's a $2,000 oversight for Cameron, and then the $17,447.25
so
is
then it
for.
isn't what we said before.
Right.
So, all right, so it's not the 19 plus the 17, it's,
Well, I'm seeing also 34,500 here in A.
I'm sorry, 30, yeah, top. Fees and payments.
But that's for, we'd already approved, what's that?
That's Cameron's piece.
That's Cameron's piece.
34,500 plus 19,400.
But I think that 34,000 was
It was the original.
the original proposal. What we're voting on now is
Maybe we should find that out.
well, no, what we're voting for is the additional services.
Oh, okay.
We'll vote on the 19,000, and then, is what it is, because the original 34,500 was part of the original piece there.
Let's put the dollar amount in.
Yeah, so, it's for, the project description and scope of services, items 2B set forth. The engineering fee would be performed in a lump sum basis for the amount of $19,447.25.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That's, okay. Towing fees. Chief? At the last meeting, Charlie Corwith came and he spoke to us
Oh, I
in
remember
reference
that,
to
yeah.
the tow fees and how our fees were substantially lower than the other areas. So, we met with him and did research in reference to the other municipalities.
We're still going to be lower, but
Yep.
come closer to what the other village and towns are giving the tow vendors. This is mainly for our impounds. So right now, we only have 2 vendors that are willing to do it, so maybe this will help get a few more people involved and, help our efficiency. And we haven't increased what we paid anybody in my time as chief, and at least for a couple of years when Chief Wilson was here, so I think it would be appropriate to give them a raise in what they're getting. So, after meeting the mayor and Mr. Corwith, we kind of hashed out a number and feeling like during the day, $200 would be appropriate, which is a $50 increase from what they're getting now. And at night, would be $250. They're getting $175 now. And we have, I have a secretary that's do quite a bit of administrative work when we impound a car, and so we have, fees we put on top of that, and we're only going to increase that by $25. So the village will see less money, but I think it'll still cover our costs. So I think this is a appropriate thing to do.
So that 350 is on top of the 250?
No, that's the
No,
total.
it's the total.
Okay.
So the village would get $100, and, that secretary pretty much every Thursday is in Riverhead at the seizure hearings. And during the week, she's doing the paperwork required to go to the seizure hearings. It's pretty much almost a full-time job for her. So, we have to cover the cost to some degree. It's not going to cover the whole cost. But, $100 or so, depending on the time of day. Helps offset it a little bit.
Any other comments or anything like that? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to change the tow and service fee charges in accordance with the January 12th, 2016 memorandum from Chief Cummins.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Stay up there for the marathon.
Yeah, we'll stay here for the, that's right. So, we have we had a presentation at a previous board meeting in reference to the Hampton Marathon, and they came in, so the chief met with them, and then we haven't finalized a route or anything like that, but it's something that we can do. They're looking to do this on October, what was the date of that?
First, I think.
Yeah,
This is Ellen's one, or?
no, this is the,
There's nothing in here.
yeah. It is, yeah, October 1st. And basically, there'd be multiple races within one, and it said the marathon, which is 26.2 miles, is a half marathon, which is a 13.1 mile. And then
5K.
they're looking at a 5K. So, it's, several thousand participants. The goal here is not to have them double up on a street and shut down a street completely. And, I think that there's ways for us to do that. We've started looking at some of the routes and stuff here. So, but what I'd like to do tonight is get an authorization to authorize the Hamptons Marathon, which raises money, and the money they donate to local charities. And the hospital's a big recipient of that, and we have support from Bob Schauner, the president of the hospital. And so I'd like to do that, and then the chief and I will work with them to develop a route. And we have support from other agencies. Chief, you talked to.
State police is willing to help us, and the town police as well. And the state police suggested that we speak to Suffolk County Office of Emergency Management, but until the board approved it, we don't want to reach out to them yet.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Hamptons Marathon on October 1st, 2016, the route to be determined at a later date.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
The next thing is the Southampton Hospital building fee. We've done this with other projects at the hospital. The idea really is to put more money back into the project and not really with the village. So, it's a $8,500 building fee for, looking to do the PET scan, CT scan room, and a renovation of an existing file room into the new X-ray room. So it's a great project. It's going to benefit this community substantially. Improves the quality of services over there, and so I'd like to make a motion to authorize Jonathan Foster to waive the building permit fee for the proposed building permit Southampton Hospital and their removal of 2 X-ray rooms and add a PET scan, CT scan room, and new X-ray room in accordance with his letter dated January 4th, 2016.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next thing is a local law on wireless facilities. Rick, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. As you will recall from sometime late last fall, I think it was, the board retained Bailey Larkin from Bennett and Reed, who has a lot of experience in dealing with wireless facilities and code regulations. And we retained her to prepare recommended changes to the zoning code that do two things. Number one, we don't have a definition in our zoning code right now of wireless facility, so this local law would add a definition. And secondly, we don't have any, these are special exception uses in various zoning districts that end up going to the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as, of course, the Planning Board. And on some types of special exception uses, we have specific standards that apply to that kind of a use that the Zoning Board has to look at. Our current code doesn't have any specific standards aimed at wireless facilities, so this would add to this code, to the code, some additional standards to be considered by the zoning board on an application for special exception use. So it's not changing where they're allowed or anything like that. It's just adding some additional stuff for the zoning board to look at. It's something we've been talking about for quite a while now. At one point, we got involved in very lengthy total codes, and we decided that we didn't really need that, that our current code is fine as long as we add a definition and some additional standards. That's what this would do.
So I'd like to make a motion to hold a public hearing on local law number 1, 2016.
February 11th? Or February 11th?
February 11th.
Right. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's February 11th?
Yep.
Okay.
We have,
Discussion on this? I mean, I know, should we have discussed this before we voted, or it's usually?
Well,
just
we're going to have
kind
the
of
public hearing, so
We're
we're
gonna have a
just,
public
we're going to
hearing.
have a
We're
public
gonna go
hearing.
through
Yeah,
that.
we're going to go
Okay,
through the
fine,
public
thank you.
hearing process on that,
Okay.
so,
So it'll all come out then?
yeah.
Perfect.
okay. Season's beginning with walk-runs. We have the first one requested for Strides for Life this Sunday.
Well, before we start this, what I want to do is, I know we did the Hamptons Marathon,
Right.
but we have a whole bunch of walk-runs and some bike stuff that we've done historically, and I know that other municipalities are starting to clamp down on them and turn people away. So I'd like to really just make sure that the ones that we're approving this year are ones that we've done in the past, and not add any more walk-runs and bike components to it. So as you get calls that come in, I mean, if they are groups that have never done anything before and they're looking to come to the village, I think that we do a lot. We do a lot more than all other municipalities around, and I think it's time for us to kind of cap this. And we probably have like most every other weekend or every third weekend where we have something that's going on, and I just get fearful of police overtime and all that fun stuff, so. Sorry, so we can go to, this is Strides for Life is something that, Strides for Life, something that's been done for probably 15 plus years
Right.
around here.
Yeah,
So-
these are all repeats on this schedule here.
So, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Strides for Life on Sunday, August 14th, 2016, in accordance with their application.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is Ella's Run, another repeat, this Sunday, August 21st, 2016.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Ellen's Run on Sunday, August 21st, 2016, in accordance with their application.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The Heart Ride is actually a bike ride.
Right.
Which is, again, repeat.
Which is pretty cool, because they actually, I mean, this is in May, and it's with rotations, and they end up having a nice get-together right here, and everybody spills over into the village in the end of May, which is, again, one of the things we're trying to do is support local businesses on these shoulder seasons, and
Right.
they don't require any police support, and so I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Heart Ride, the American Heart Association bike ride in accordance with their application on Saturday, May 21st, 2016.
Second? Second. Favor?
Aye. Great. All right, I'll do all this stuff here. We had comments from board members here. Trustee Yastrzemski.
Just quickly, since we swore in our officers tonight for our volunteer departments, I just again want to thank them all for the work they do in our police department. Public safety and our first responders is a very large part of what any municipal budget, and it's a large part of what we have here in the village as well, and rightly so. I always tell people, and the chief and the officers that got sworn in this evening from the fire department and our ambulance department, the main thing that people know here in the village, and a large part of the outline in the village, is that within 60 seconds of a phone call, there's typically a vehicle with lights in your driveway. That's what the volunteers here tonight, and our paid police department, and our responders, that's the service they provide to our community, and I commend them. I thank them, the volunteers, for all the hours and the training and on-the-job service they do, and of course our paid police department. That again, bar none, the wait times in surrounding areas sometimes are horrendous, and they're certainly longer than what we have here. We're very fortunate with all our first responders, our paid and volunteers. Again, how quickly they respond to people's emergencies. So again, I congratulate for the gentlemen and ladies tonight who were sworn in, and again, thank you for our police department as well.
Mike?
Well, our village here is looking pretty good, I think, this time of year. Your leaves were all picked up. Those gum trees, I think, have something personal against you, but the leaf pickup was...
Sweet gums or plague.
The leaf pickup was great, and all the departments, Public Works and Parks Department did a great job in keeping the village really pretty spectacular looking. There's less trash and stuff around than I've seen in a long time. The other big thing is that there's a core group of businesses in our village that fight very hard to remain open during the winter, and it's so key to support them. It really is. Whether you're going out for dinner or going out for lunch or just going through one of the boutiques, if they're open, believe me, they are really working hard, because most retail in this village give back this time of year everything they make. So, I think we should all thank them for being open and keeping the village as vibrant as it is.
Well said. Thanks, Mike. Nance?
Well, first, I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. And let's hope that 2016 is a great year for the village and everyone remains healthy. I also agree with Michael on what he had to say, what he just said about the community. I thought the village looked absolutely beautiful at Christmas. We had so many compliments on all the lights and all of the businesses that participated in decorating their buildings. I've had people email me saying the village has never looked as beautiful as it looked this year. And that makes me feel great, and I'm sure it makes all the members of the board feel great. So we have a lot of winter left here. Hopefully it won't be a bad one. So far so good, knock wood. But anyway, I'd like to thank all the departments for that, and I hope everyone had a good holiday season and Happy New Year, and here's to a new year.
Bill?
Thank God
Southampton Village isn't in the mess that I think the world is in.
Yeah.
And want to thank our candidate over here for not getting involved in some of the debates that we watch on television every day. Good Lord. Anyhow, but, I would appreciate if we actually had some kind of a directive, to the Parks Department to blow off Main Street over in front of Paul's Pizza and George Submergent's office buildings and so on, wherever these sweet gums are, and that this morning at 8:45, I couldn't believe, here it is, it's the middle of December, and they're still coming down, and you look up and there's 1,000 more up there. I think somebody's putting them back up at night.
They're thinking about you.
Yeah, anyhow, they
I think
are
it's Michael.
dangerous.
I think Michael's running out, he's gluing those gums back up on the gum tree, so.
He's going, I'm gonna get Bill.
Maybe we could put this before the ARB or something. In any event, I would love it if we had a regular schedule, and that John told me this morning, I was coming in to tell you that they were all over Main Street, and I looked up and they were gone. So obviously the Parks Department had blown off the sidewalks, but that meant they're all out in the street now, and John said he'd do it early tomorrow. But we should have at least twice, if not 3 times a week, because those things are, and I know firsthand what it is to take a flop off of one of them.
We
Other
should
than
get our
that,
vacuum trucks up there, Bill, and we can vacuum them all off.
well, I once brought up that idea, and I forget why they don't like vacuum trucks, but there are
We
these
have a
little
vacuum
ride-on-
truck.
Yeah, and it's sitting up there, and they cost a lot of money, but it hasn't vacuumed in a hell of a long time if we're talking about the same truck. But anyhow, that's just one thing other than that, I think I will just say again, as Nancy has, Happy New Year. Oh, I did give Mark Parrish a suggestion, and whether it's a good or a bad one, but, the beauty of the village at Christmas time and the massive Christmas tree that we have, and I think you said there were 6,800 lights on it or something, which astonished me, but just an idea of whether or not maybe put, I was thinking of 3 Christmas trees on top of the War Memorial, one with red, one with white, and one with blue lights or something like that. It would be highly visible if it were elevated. Now, Gary told me that the roof of that thing has got plenty of problems, so whether you can do it, but something down there that might even,
At the
red,
monument?
Yes, by the
Well, you know
monument,
what
red,
I
white,
always
and blue.
wanted to do?
Just a thought.
The pear trees that are along
Yes.
Pond Lane,
The
well, they get,
Bradford.
the Bradford pear trees. Well, some of them eventually are going to go, but they get sculpted in a certain way, or they have been sculpted. I always thought, gee, if we wrap those with red, white, and blue,
That might be a
that
nice
would be
idea.
really
Anyhow,
pretty.
it's just a thought, and Mark said he would give it some thought, but
Okay.
you might,
Yeah.
it just would seem to me that the veterans would like it. It focuses some attention on the memorial, and
Yeah.
it's a sacred place in the community.
Yeah.
Other than that, the world's a mess.
The world is a mess.
Well, we have the chief here. The one thing I think that we do need to do as a community before we hit the summertime with all, is we need to sit down and have, develop a strategy, or maybe even do a drill, a community-wide drill with our fire department, ambulance, and the police department, on some type of emergency situation, like some of the other areas have faced. And I think that would be a good thing for us to start planning for, so that way when the summertime rolls around and we have a lot of, industry leaders, world, leaders and that come out here, and people really just don't even know the number, who comes out here and stuff. So I think it would be good for us to start to run some type of drill as a community, so we can start planning for that and stuff. So I think it's, especially in light of some of the things that have occurred over the last couple of months here.
Especially with our traffic issues.
Right. Yeah. How do we get people in and out? How do we do a lot of stuff in high traffic time frames and stuff? So I think that it's something we as a community should plan on doing in the next couple of months. So the chief and I will get together and we'll work on some of this stuff, so. And we have 33 gum trees, according to the Parks Department. So we've asked them at our last supervisors meeting to develop a plan on replacement of those gum trees.
You're a man with iron nerves. I never even dared think of cutting something down, no matter
Well,
how much
but you-
trouble
No,
it
I
was
can't,
causing.
I'd rather vacuum them than.
Yeah, but
Transplant
let's
them
let's
and put
think,
all your development.
but let's think in terms of, the overall cost of this, and maybe there's a way to stage this out, and maybe there's
You
a.
take a mature tree and replace it with a little one.
Well,
There's many
you're gonna
of them
pick them
around.
out and bring them over to Bill's house, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, so.
Yeah,
we're gonna
transplant 'em over there.
Transplant 'em over there. But maybe there's a way for us to do something that, because I do think that they are a safety issue when it comes to, the drop that comes in. So, is it, the debate is now is gonna be over, how do you make the sidewalk a safer place for people? What's the cost to the community if a slip and fall occurs and there's some injury? And so how do we develop a plan to where we don't turn around and see Main Street? Because I think there's 12 gum trees on the west side, there's 6 gum trees on the east side, and,
Take those down. You can't take, you take 12 mature trees down and put up what? You can't put a big tree there.
well, that's why I'm saying we need to think in terms of a plan, and how do we do that?
So maybe you could do one a year.
Maybe 1 a year, maybe 2 a year, maybe it's a replacement of that tree with not the normal one we throw up and stuff, but maybe a larger, sized tree that.
Well, I was told by the Parks Department that when you plant a larger tree, it usually doesn't make it. That
I
it's,
can understand
Well,
that. I just,
yeah.
in the meantime,
Yeah.
they should, honestly, it seems to me this is the slowest time of the year. We don't have anybody to worry about the beaches, the ball fields, the mowing lawns, and cutting hedges and all this sort of thing. And I don't know how anybody can drive by that and not want to do something. And I think they ought to, like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they ought to.
I'll talk with them about that. I think they could,
Blow them off and-
I know they don't have the grasshoppers because they usually go through the town.
Yeah, they still have a couple of tenants.
They do.
Yeah, they're not-
I mean,
they're
they
not
can send
all
them
gone.
down
Well,
there
let's
every
set-
day.
let's
They
set
should
with-
be down there every day if they're.
Yeah, they should.
Let's set with Larry, develop a strategy on this,
Yeah.
but I also think that we need to develop a long-term strategy that replaces those trees.
You think we
And,
do?
I
Yeah.
think we do.
Okay,
And I
fine.
think that,
I think long-term is fine.
Well, I was thinking we were gonna go and turn around and cut down 33 trees.
No, I know, but
Was
was all worried there, the way you.
Good luck with that.
But I think
Yeah.
that we need a strategy, and I think that if you look at the costs associated with these, there are other options that should have been planted, 20, 30 years ago, yes. And-
Maybe we could replace it with the disease-resistant elms.
Sounds good to me.
There's a new disease-resistant elm tree. Wouldn't that be fabulous if we could get those
I
growing
just
there?
know a tree has bark and it has leaves, and that's about all I
No,
know.
the elms are so fabulous
So,
because they grow huge and they have this umbrella that just reaches across the road. It's just,
Yep.
so if we could get some of those, that would be terrific.
Yeah, I see sidewalks being pushed up and. So, but, no, everybody's done a nice job. I look forward to our February meeting when everybody gets a chance to brag about their different departments and all the
Right.
accomplishments, and we're going into budget season, so, there are challenges there that we have to look at, and we're in a very fortunate position. We have, but again, we've got some big projects that we're looking to do. I think the planning commission's Paul Travis has done a fantastic job so far with the whole sewer district piece. There's a lot of pushback in some groups, and there's a lot of support in other people. But we can't, we gotta continue to keep the focus in on, it's the responsible thing for this board, and this village to be doing. Clearly, all you have to do is listen to what Governor Cuomo and the money that he's put in towards septic, county exec, Steve Ballone, and what they're doing with sewers, and recognize that we've got to protect our groundwater. We have to protect our drinking water. We got to protect our environment. And waste management is the most important component.
I think what a lot of people, during these discussions we've been having, and I've been talking about it with people, is, you know, when I got involved in this 8 years ago, that was like one of the first things that I was going to. We were going to things in Stony Brook, and these symposiums, these meetings, and, you know, it's clearly an island-wide issue. So, you know, Executive Balone has now pushed to the forefront as well, and that was always part of our pushback, was getting the county to move forward with it. So, you know, what we've been doing, I think, locally within our village is been, once again, ahead of the curve.
Well, the irresponsible thing to do is not address it.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
What are we handing over to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren?
It's got to start somewhere. I mean, it's been identified as a major island-wide issue,
Yeah.
and every area is going to have to address it at one time or another.
We're just trying to figure out how to spread that cost out, how to minimize impact on people, how to maximize the number of grants out there. Those are all the challenges that we face.
And that's always been the issue. When I remember going to the symposiums,
Yeah.
they always said that one of the biggest obstacles of a lot of large-scale projects is the cost.
Cost,
And that's
exactly.
what we're,
So, yeah. Okay, we have a second public comment. Anyone else from the public? Mr. White, come on up. You have 3 minutes now this time.
Michael White, Pulaski Street. About the sewer system, I've been going to these meetings for the last 6 months because I used to read the articles and the headlines would be, clean up at Lake Agawam. Now the experts are showing up. And Kevin McAllister was there last week, and he has a report that says none of the water, septic water, is going to Lake Agawam. The flow is going the other way, and he has a report. There is not...
I absolutely 100% disagree with Kevin McAllister.
Where's the report?
It is absolutely,
report
that,
that you're quoting the wrong guy.
that's why what we've done. That's what we've
It's the
done.
report that the woman, what's her name, Dee Dee, that owns the inn.
Lombardo Engineering wrote one also in
Well,
2013 that John
Yeah,
Paulson...
I left-
but
yeah,
his,
left
with
it back.
Lombardo Engineering report is about how to clean up components of the lake. You know, there's a few different things associated with the lake. Okay, one is road runoff, and the village is because people make broad statements and say, "Oh, the village hasn't done anything," which is completely untrue. So road runoff and managing road runoff. So what we've done is we put multiple systems in place to capture runoff prior to it ever reaching the lake. And
Drainage everywhere.
and that's evident by the amount of times that they have to drain the lake. You know, 10 years ago, you were draining Lake Agawam during basically the springtime to the fall time, twice a month. Okay, and then the more drainage that we put in, we end up doing a lowering of the level of Lake Agawam at the beginning of the summer, and maybe once during the summer, and maybe once at the end of the summer. Well, this past year, we did a lowering of the level at the beginning of the summer, and didn't have to do it again all year.
Well, that's because we didn't
We
have
didn't
any
have
rain.
much rain. But historically, it was twice a month the whole time. So the drainage fields that we've placed in place have been effective in reducing the amount of flow into the lake. That's one component to it. The second component is the runoff from the adjacent properties because of the fertilization problems around. So the Lake Agawam Conservation Association, led by David Bonnet, put together a package that they put out to each one of the homeowners. And that package encouraged the development of buffer systems around the lake, of which almost every single property owner on the lake has complied with, developed buffer systems around there and reduced the amount of fertilizers that have gone into the land. So that's a big issue. It's a big piece. And also on the south end, what the town trustees developed was a whole swell system along the parking lot to capture the runoff from the parking lot prior to it going into the lake. And they had plantings and stuff also in there that captured some of the runoff that was going into the lake. So they've done it, and the town trustees helped us out with Lake Agawam. We have fowl on the lake, which is, that's a whole debatable topic, because you get into, everybody likes to feed the ducks, and actually what they're doing is actually hurting Lake Agawam when they do that. And then, and you do have, because Lake Agawam is fed by runoff from the properties, runoff from the roads, and then also there's the underground aquifer is actually surface in that lake. And there is issues associated with nitrogen coming from leaching from the septic systems. Dr. Goldler is going to be doing a whole study on that. But for someone to come in and say that there's actually zero, and I wasn't at the meeting, so I didn't hear what he said, but I'm just repeating what you said, okay, is that's not true.
Well, based
And-
on there are no reports besides his. And even the expert
I think
from Stony Brook was
Gogler
here.
studied that pond
See, he's been
many
studying
years
that
ago.
for
He wants to study it again. Remember,
He's been
Because he
const-
wants to see what
because he's
changes
constant.
take
Yeah,
place.
he says there's never been definitive proof of what, because they asked him how many pounds are coming out of it. They don't know if 1 pound's coming from septic or all of it. And two of the experts said it's probably the runoff that's 90% of this. And to spend
Well,
$33 million.
Yeah, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. It's not about the lake.
Okay.
But the lake component and the environmental component is a driving force behind the grants.
But if it's not, this is what I don't understand as far as planning and zoning, good planning and zoning. In one conversation, when I started coming here, every single one of you said, there's nowhere to park, too much traffic, we hate the Tuckahoe project, it's ridiculous, we don't need supermarkets, we don't need density. In the next conversation, you want to build 120 apartments, 20 restaurants, half the restaurants can't even make it, and none of them.
We want to have 20
I
restaurants.
am absolutely.
You should go to the meetings and listen to what they're proposing. They want to put up 20 more wet uses. And, I think you asked the question of where do we park now? And what is the end game that you're trying to accomplish? Because it's contradictory to say, well, I don't like the Tuckahoe project, which is on a 4-lane highway, but I want to divert them all through the village that has no roads. Where would you put these cars? Because I can't park in the summer. Where do you park? And it's bad planning to do that way because it doesn't make any sense. And the other thing is, everybody in the district should get a certified letter to come to this board, because none of them know. Everybody thinks they're getting it for free, and nobody's going to hook up to it. Nancy, would you hook up to the sewer system for $20,000? You don't need it.
It's not residential.
No, but does somebody that owns a card store or a real estate, are they going to spend $20,000? You have the
They're not
biggest
going to spend
user.
$20,000.
Well, you should read the report, what it's going to happen.
You're throwing out numbers here.
Read the report.
I've read the report.
All right,
Okay.
you have the Southampton Inn. She told you she's not going to hook up, and she's the biggest user. So who is this going to benefit? Future development? You're not going to hook the schools up? Are you going to hook the village hall up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you don't have the Southampton Inn. You're not going to have the village latch. You're not going to have a lot of intense uses.
Yeah, but Mike, you gotta remember, if the village latch doesn't wanna hook up, they're gonna be restricted in the number of units that they can rent. Department of Health isn't gonna go for it. So with any other development. And so you're gonna reduce the number of vehicles that are technically gonna be running around the village. But what you're doing in the village is a health, safety issue for the residents of the village of Southampton. Because walking around town and seeing raw sewage running out of the gutter and into the street is not the greatest thing to see.
I agree with that, but the reason the health department has these laws and I'm talking as a builder, is to restrict development. That's why they made these laws, so you can't increase the Southampton Inn, so you can't increase density in Long Island. This stuff all goes somewhere. I mean, Riverhead just
into
had
the
a
ground
spill.
at the moment.
2.5 million gallons of raw sewage came out of that plant, because the plant empties into the Peconic Bay. Nobody knows that. All the sewage, that's where it comes out. There's a pipe there.
Right, but why did it discharge? Why did it discharge?
Because all these plants are faulty.
No,
Every one of them.
No,
Well,
the
you
plant
should-
wasn't designed to handle the
It's
volume
not
it
why.
is.
It's not why.
It is.
They had a broken valve. But if you read that Suffolk County report that was in Newsday about how many of these plants do not operate correctly, they said it's like 80%. They don't operate. They're putting more than 10 milliliters of nitrogen into the groundwater constantly. And they get a $5,000 fine, and they're allowed to keep operating. I don't see, if you're going to do this for development, that's one thing. But what's the
For me,
aim
it's
of this
strictly
village?
environmental. For me, it's strictly environmental.
But
That's
it's not
what
going
it
to
is.
do it. That's
Why
not,
do you think that for all the years that the restaurants have been here and the laundromat that has been here and all of the other businesses that are spewing stuff into the
Hairdressers.
ground, the hairdressers and everything, you think that's good?
Huge.
I don't think that's good.
Did
And
you-
I don't think it's good to continue
Did you
to
ever
allow
go
it to happen.
Did you ever go to the health department and ask them how much pollution comes out of a septic system? Ask them.
Well, that's true.
Because there's zero. There is zero.
That's not true.
Well,
Actually-
well, listen,
Not
you
true.
went to the meeting and I asked the consultant, remember that night? He asked me who I asked at the health department. You know what he said at the meeting? They asked him for the report. He says, oh, that doesn't exist. I made a mistake. Because it doesn't exist. You gotta do your homework because you're
Do you know
being
that
lied to.
that the largest contaminant of any water systems that are here is from the cesspools of properties?
No,
that
it's
are here?
not. It's
Yes,
from
it
the
is.
farms.
No,
Ask
no.
Suffolk County.
No.
I've been through this with them. Nitrates and Temic and everything else they threw on farm fields is the biggest polluter in Suffolk County. It's not septic. In fact, show me
but that's not what I've
show
been
me
told.
a septic system on Long Island that has polluted the groundwater. Find me one. Because you gotta do the research. I do this for a living. I do septic systems. I do construction. I know what I'm talking about. You're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. They said it's loaded with phosphorus in there. They said it glows at night. They said that's not coming from a septic system. They said that's coming from road runoff. It's not true.
One of the other components to the lake is you have to figure out what we're gonna do with the sediment that's already in there.
They'll have to dredge it. I mean, that's what they did at the other pond.
Not dredging. Nobody's ever gonna give you permission to dredge that lake.
Well, they did over in DC, told them to dredge over off of Wickapog. They dredged all that, the bottom out, because it was all phosphorus. And they said they couldn't clean it up because they couldn't get the bottom clean.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're looking at, yeah, I mean, look at the size of Lake Agawam.
Well, I think the fair thing to do is that there should be a referendum. I mean, you can't ask people to spend money, and I mean, like you said, things aren't getting better. I mean, eventually
Well-
this village is gonna get affected, and why in government is it such a problem to vote on people's money?
It's not, but when you stand up here and you make false statements.
Tell me which one. Show, how much, you said you knew the answer.
$20,000.
How many towns?
$20,000, when you stand up here and say that, a bookstore or something like that is going to cost them $20,000 to hook up to the system?
When you get done with the
Okay?
electric.
When
the
you,
hook- read the
when you
report.
stand up here and you say, oh, you got plans of installing 120 apartments around here?
You said that.
No, what I said, okay, was that, 1970, there were 120 apartments above stores. Now we have 20.
But you said we could replace those.
You could replace them.
Okay.
But that
Is that
doesn't mean
what
that,
you want?
but you stand up here and make a statement that we have plans to install 120 apartments around here.
I didn't say.
That's what you did.
You
No, that's what
didn't say that in the
that was
meeting.
your
Not
statement.
only that, how many pounds
Yeah,
of,
see, that's the problem.
many pounds of
That's the problem,
nitrogen-
because you stand up here and you make false statements. It's the same way you did at the last meetings there.
here's the problem. I didn't make any.
You
false-
did, you did,
Okay.
you did.
All right,
You
You're ready to do a $33 million.
No, I'm ready
store.
to get to the point.
How many,
Yeah.
how many pounds of nitrogen go in the lake? Shouldn't that be the first question you ask
Why do you
before you,
think we-
you don't know.
I don't know the answer.
That's right, you don't know. So
Right.
why are you doing
Because
it?
that's
But we have-
one
we have
component to
further-
that.
we have further
It's
studies
one
going on
component to
anyway.
that.
Why would you do the
We
study
spent
first?
5+ years doing a downtown business district redevelopment master plan update, okay? And a big component of that was all around zoning. And you built all of this stuff, and the big piece of that was the installation of a septic system in here. You know, listen to what the governor was talking about the other night in the State of the Union. You talk about what the county executive's talking about. You look at one of the biggest problems around here is managing our waste. Managing our waste.
Okay.
Looking at areas at high density and managing waste. The village of Southampton is a high density area.
But you want to make it
And how do you
denser.
maybe, maybe not.
Of course you do. You're making capacity that's twice
No,
as big
you-
as the plant.
That's not
you-
true. Again,
no.
another false statement.
All right. Mark,
Okay?
tell me
There's
how
a
much
current
nitrogen,
there's
how much
a
nitrogen goes into that waste?
additional capacity of
He
about
doesn't know.
70,000 gallons, 70,000
But
gallons a
we're working on
day.
finding out. Because
Okay.
Chris Grobler, we just gave more money
So,
for them to
you know-
continue
Well,
the
why
study.
would you even, why wouldn't he be the first step? It's just, that there's an underlying,
There is no underlying.
issue
There's
going-
nothing underlying here.
why would you?
There's
put-
not an
why-
underlying
Nancy,
anything.
Why do you go in the paper and say you don't like the Tuckahoe Center?
Yeah.
Okay, but you want to do it here.
That's not true.
That's
No?
not true.
That's not true.
So you don't want to do, so you'll put in the law that there's no more
I
density.
don't like the Tuckahoe Center for all of the right reasons. It should not be on County Road 39 because it's too congested a highway, and every bit of that traffic is going to come through every one of our little side streets. That should not have that traffic coming through, and that is going to become the route of choice. That's my job. That is my job, to sit up here and look all over this community and find out how that's going to affect my community. And it's going to affect my community in a very bad manner, and that's why I'm against
And
it.
it's a zoning change. And that's a zoning change from a highway business district. And what that does is it says, okay, Home Depot, they've already, and I already know that there was somebody already looking and negotiating to buy property across the street from the Tuckahoe Center, okay, to buy it and
Develop that.
develop all that stuff. Okay, so that's one step. And then you turn around and you look at County Road 39, and you're going to see all the different lots around there developed. And then you'll see Targets that will come in, you'll see Home Depots that will come in, and you'll turn around and you have to go to Herrick Hardware and see those guys and face them and realize they're out of business. And they're the local people that volunteer in our ambulance and fire departments. They're the local people that support all of our not-for-profit institutions. They're a local business right on Main Street that everybody goes to. You go down to, Lynch's Garden Center, realize how they would be impacted by that. That's the issue. So you're trying to eliminate urban sprawl, okay? And by concentrating in areas, and you see it across the country, in all these small areas right here, you can go up the island and look at different municipalities that have been devastated because of urban sprawl. It's the Walmart effect when they go out and these superstores are all coming in and they're destroying mom and pop and small businesses.
I
It's
understand.
already hard enough. So
How is this gonna, you are going to put more density.
no, we're not. We're trying. What we're doing is
And you're
there will
not?
be.
I'm not, no,
And you're not?
no, I'm not.
So
That's not true.
You're
How
putting
am I
three new
going
houses,
North
you're
Main
putting three
Street?
new houses on North Main Street.
Okay.
You're
empty
rebuilding all
lots.
these neighborhoods by building
Okay.
bigger
I could build
houses, so.
15 houses there, but I didn't do it.
But
That's
you
my
still.
as of
But how many
right.
houses
quite
were on those
honestly,
lots?
Listen, run this.
How many houses were on the lots?
How
There
about
were
you,
no houses
since I'm.
there.
How many houses were on those lots?
There, at one time, there were more than
No.
three.
How many houses were on the lots when
A
you
long
bought
time
it?
ago, 3, 4 houses.
How many houses were on the lots that you
One.
bought? Yeah, so you want to put 3.
Okay,
So you increased it.
Run the sewer down North Main, and I'll put 20 houses. I'll put condos, because that's what I'll be allowed to do when it's
Mike,
the sewer.
Mike,
So I think, I mean, look,
reality-
I love you, man. I love the debates. I love your enthusiasm. I love all of that stuff. But we're way over the 3 minutes and
Yeah.
stuff, so.
Yeah.
but Mike,
We're done.
one thing I
This
want to
subject.
say.
Well,
Well, hold on a second. I've been here, my parents were here, my grandparents were here. I go way back in relatives to the very beginning of Southampton Village. And I've seen it grow. And it's grown and grown and grown, and the density's gotten heavier and heavier. it would be absolutely irresponsible for us not to review a septic system, because we've reached the point of density. Your house going from 1 to 3, that, regardless of what you say, that septic system migrates to the south, and it enters partly into Agawam and partly into the ocean. And all of us are irresponsible for not accepting our waste treatment and understanding it. We really are. And it's not a question of more
And also,
people
what about
coming
all the
in.
houses that were 3 bedrooms and 1 bath? And now they're 5 bedrooms and 5
Actually-
baths, or 6
actually,
bedrooms and 6
you're wrong.
baths. So,
The new houses that are here by the part-time residences actually use less energy, they use less water.
True.
No?
how do you
No,
know
it's
that?
not
Have
true.
you gotten out there and measured
Because they're
all
not
that?
here 10 months
Doesn't
out of the
matter.
year.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Really?
matter. You just look at the demands of LIPA. LIPA was trying to develop solar fields and wind farms and all that. Where are they trying to find and encourage
I
property
just
owners
built
to do
a
it?
house with geothermal that it's not hooked up to gas, it's foam insulated. The electric bill for the whole year with the pool heater was $2,500, and that's with heat and air conditioning. So don't say that, that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean,
The demands on PSE&G, okay, and electric east of the canal are substantially higher than what they were even 10 years ago. They are.
I think there's, I think.
And as far as the apartments are
It's-
concerned, basically, it's what, the thought process behind that
It's
is
affordable.
workforce housing.
It's workforce
Because-
housing.
Let's face it. Let's face it.
But don't you think we
Our
should be
local
able to
people
vote
are
on
being
it?
forced out.
Don't you think we should have a referendum? Isn't that fair?
Yeah, but guys like you can't come up here and spew bad information.
But you don't.
But that's what you do.
I asked a million questions and I can't get an answer, and there is no answer. How much nitrogen goes into the lake
That's
from the
what's being
septic?
We're gonna
studied
find,
now.
you know what, Chris Scoville's gonna tell us that.
Right.
And,
And nothing's being done until we get those studies.
well, you just spent another $60,000 or $50,000 to do it.
Again, bad information.
No? They're doing it today,
19,000.
aren't they? Aren't they doing it today?
$19,000.
Okay, 19 more.
For architectural shovel digs and
Right.
stuff, which is required by the state.
On top of 34.
But we already approved that.
So it's not misinformation, it's
Well, it is.
$53,000.
It's in the
You're
presentation.
spending $53,000.
All right, so we're done.
Plain semantics.
We want to know the
But
answer.
isn't-
The answer to the question that you're pressing us on.
But my question is, can you have a referendum to vote on? Is that fair?
I'm gonna wait for Farrell Fritz and legal counsel to make a recommendation to this board before I answer your question.
You need a lawyer to tell you if it's fair to vote on somebody's money?
Just gonna tell you what.
I mean, come on, Nancy, is that fair? I mean,
Why do you keep asking me? I'm
because
laughing at you.
I think you're very level-headed, and I think you.
So you don't think the rest
No,
of
I
us
think you're
are?
level-headed, but I think Nancy.
All right, so
goes-
I'm gonna be level-headed and tell you you're way over your 3 minutes because Rick is dying over here,
All right, so we'll just keep.
So I'd like to say, anyone else from the public would like to make comment? Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters.
Second?
Second.
In favor?